Hey, welcome to the Girlfriends and Ghosts podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria, and this is my best friend and co-host, Miosha. And today we're reviewing Married at First Sight, season 16 in Nashville, episode 6. But before we jump into it, we do this every single week. So if you're a fan of Married at First Sight, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Also, throughout the video, please comment below what your thoughts are because we love to read the comments. All
Yes.
right. So we're going to start with Nicole and Chris, and I feel like get them out of the way because there's not much new with them this week.
No, it's just a lot of, I don't want to say trauma bonding because it is their past and I understand that they're getting to know each other. I just feel like they're spending a lot of time talking about past relationships. I feel like, and I don't know, I'm sure their conversations are more than that. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
But
But
from
I
what
do,
you see,
yeah,
yeah.
from what we see, I feel like it's a lot of talk about the previous relationships. And I don't know, I kind of want to hear about their past, but not so much from the perspective of, oh, well, in this relationship, it was XYZ, but in that relationship, it was da 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 da. I don't know.
Okay.
I
I
just tell us what you want, what you're looking for, and that's it. Like, I don't need, I don't,
I
yeah.
don't know, Yosha. I feel like for them it's difficult to explain what they want without going back to those things. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like when they talk about the past relationships,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, so this is where I come from. This is the traumatic stuff that I've experienced in the past. I'm never going back to that. Like I've endured it. And I think it gives the other person a good understanding of things that might trigger them
Mm-hmm.
or as much of an understanding as you can get without going through life with somebody. And so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I get what they're doing with sharing so much about their past relationships, especially with this with this episode where they were talking about like physical intimacy with
Mm-hmm.
previous partners. And Chris brought up that he was in a relationship for what was it, a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd only slept together 3 times. So yeah, I think it's helpful, but I can understand how as a viewer we don't want to hear so much about their past relationships, but they don't know each other. So maybe it's like an easy way to talk about difficult things.
Yeah. And also maybe production isn't showing us a good variety of the conversations that they're having. So we are only watching clips, but for whatever reason, they're choosing to show us, I'll say that, the majority of them just talking about past relationships. And I agree, it is a good way to get to know each other. But I think beyond that, I think is what I'm looking to see more of.
Yeah, I think the conversations that they had that weren't just based off of exes were like she enjoys the cuddles, and I think before she was saying she didn't necessarily think she would be that person, and so I wrote down that I think it's good when you're with someone and they kind of teach you about yourself. Like that's not something
Mm-hmm.
she would have expected of herself, but now she's comfortable enough and she realizes, oh, this is something that I enjoy. And I think when he was talking to the guys, he said it's a little much for him, but for her, it's like I'm comfortable enough. Like I don't have a man who's trying to burn me with a cigarette. I can be affectionate with him, and so I'm gonna do that. So yeah, that was one of the things they talked about outside of past relationships.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like, because they did have some conversations around, pet peeves and, so I enjoyed that. Okay, you're opening up about what you like, what you don't like.
Yes.
Do you think that there may be a bit of overthinking on either one of their parts so far?
Not so far. I think they're
Okay.
thinking just enough. I feel like they're having some very deep conversations, but honestly, when you have 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but between now and a show paying for your divorce versus
Mm-hmm.
finding out after, I think these are the conversations that need to be had. But of course, I could be biased because I'm a very serious conversation type person, like a super deep conversation person. Like if I say game night, there might be one game in there that's questions,
Mhm.
to get to know each other better. So yeah, I could be biased. What do you think?
Um, so I don't know that they're overthinking it. One thing that I wrote down is that I wonder how much Nicole is really being herself on
Interesting.
this honeymoon. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
wonder because she describes herself as being like so much,
Mhm.
and I haven't gotten that side of her much, I feel like, at least on the screen time. So I don't
Mhm.
know if it's that she was just so aware of herself going in that she's like, okay, I'm gonna try to contain it a bit, or if
Mhm.
she is being herself, uh for where, and maybe she's just matched with the right person and the energy and the vibe is right. So
Yeah.
she's not seen as being extra.
You know what it could be though? So yeah, I think you're right with the self-awareness thing, but they're on a honeymoon in Jamaica. Like the everyday stuff that she might be dealing with back in Nashville
Hmm.
isn't stuff that she's dealing with here. So I wonder if a part of it is her being removed from her reality. And maybe we'll start to see it as the weeks go on. But you know what slipped out a little bit? I think it was when they were talking about Clint's comment to Gina, and she was like, "Yeah, I would have stabbed him in the throat." And I was like, "Whoa, that escalated quickly," So I'm like, "Is that you, girl?" Like that's the
Yeah,
Nicole we
she
haven't seen.
she was very passionate with that
Mhm.
whole situation. But I don't know if we want to talk just a little bit about their piece of the group session in terms of the intimacy that she went into this process expecting. She
Sure.
said that she expected by day 2 to be
Mhm.
intimate, to make sure that there was physical attraction or chemistry. And
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if I heard her say that earlier on, but maybe she did and I just couldn't remember. But I was just like, huh.
I don't know that she said it, but I remember
Yeah.
when her mom was like, "Hey, going into this, maybe don't sleep with him
Yeah.
tonight or tomorrow." Like, I remember her mom saying that. So if her mom said that,
Yeah. So maybe there was something there that gave the mom the feeling like, oh, this could happen. But
right.
yeah, I was surprised by that. But she said that she's willing to wait and be patient, I
Mhm.
guess. And now it got me to thinking, okay, well, I guess what was his expectation? Because then we hear some about how they're both nervous about physical intimacy and how it's been a while. And so now I was like, okay, well, what were his expectations going into this? Was she expecting it? And then he pumped the brakes because I was thinking back to that first night together. Things looked pretty steamy to me. So,
Gotcha. I think so. I think she's following his lead. I don't want to
okay.
say he's like controlling things, but I do think she's following his lead, which I don't mind with this couple because Nicole describes herself as being a lot. And one of the primary concerns we had at the beginning was she about to run all over this man, which Clint, what is his name? Clint? Yeah, Clint. Sorry.
Could
But yeah,
interchange it for Mitch, Clint,
I
Mitch,
know.
same
But
person.
he was doing the most when they started talking in the boys talk about her, and he goes, "Oh yeah, she's from New York, she's gonna run all over you, you're gonna have to." And I'm like, whoa, I don't like that is his outlook on how this man should treat his whole wife.
Mm-mm.
And it's like I'm glad Chris is the type of person to take that advice, because that would go terribly wrong. And I'm like, see, that's why Clint is the age that he is without somebody, because if you come at women like that in general just because they have a strong personality, you feel like you have to be strong with them, as opposed to creating an environment where they can be soft, or just loved and affectionate and all of that stuff, then that says a lot about you as a man.
That, and he doesn't really know Chris. He knows that he's an easygoing guy. He seems
Yes.
nice, but we've seen from the footage that he isn't going to let her just run all over him.
Yeah.
And he seems to know when and where to put his foot down when it's most important to him. So,
yes. And the
Clint, keep
way
your
that,
advice.
yeah, and the way that matches his personality. So it doesn't have to be like aggressive. It's just, hey, I don't like this type of behavior. Can you relax on that? So I thought that
Yeah.
was very interesting. But to what you were saying about them both being nervous, I loved the vulnerability in that moment. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was very good, especially for a man to be able to admit, like, it's been a while for me. I don't know how things are going to go. And I think she has very realistic expectations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the first time is going to be a home run. That's not what I was expecting. It seemed like for her, she more so wanted to get the first time out of the way so that they know where to start from
Mm.
with that. So, yeah,
Mm.
I still like them, but I will keep my eye out for what you said about Nicole. Like, is this her, or are we seeing Vacation Nicole, or I'm New to You Nicole? Yeah,
Yeah, and based off of the preview, I don't know. She bought the L word up again.
she did. She wants to stay
And
longer.
yeah, she does. And Clint was being extra, but I do think that he did have a point in Nicole potentially testing him just to see like where he is, where he's going to push back. Um I
Yeah,
don't think he was 100% wrong on that. I think his delivery was wrong, but I could see her kind of trying to establish, okay, where are the boundaries with how you feel with certain things.
yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
that's. I don't know if I said it or you said it, but I know we had this discussion either last week or week before last, where it's like she's she's trying to learn, okay, how much can I do in this direction, how much can I do in that
Mm-hmm.
direction, she's trying to learn the other person who she has committed to for the next at least 8 weeks. So yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes because they started off so well, but I don't think they started off so well that, in the past with Lindsay and Mark or other people where they start off pretty okay and then they jump into the physical. I think these two are really taking their time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested in their storyline this season.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have on them.
Okay, I think me too. Do you want to go to Dominique and Mackinley?
Yes.
Okay.
So we hear that Dominique puts her attraction to him at a 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that I was surprised
Do you think
by
that's
that.
high or low? I'm trying to gauge what your thoughts are.
It's about where I thought it would be, only because she was kissing him,
Mm-hmm.
a decent amount and was okay with being close to him. But I think his personality knocked it down more. I
Mm-hmm.
think if some of his little quirks weren't there, I think she would have been more attracted to him or rated him a bit higher.
You know what's funny about quirks is that if you like the person, those quirks mean nothing. Like they might even be a little bit adorable. But when you don't like the person, it's like, oh my gosh, he breathed. Why? Like, so I think that's what I'm seeing with Dominique and Mackinley. I think his personality has thrown her off and she's realizing I don't really like him. He's not someone I would date personality wise. So even though I thought
Mm-hmm.
he was handsome, the personality just isn't where I would need it to be. And now she's being polite like she was last week, but she's struggling a lot with her with her act. So,
Yeah. I also think his personality, but then just lifestyle,
mm,
I think he just was not what she was expecting.
yeah.
I think maybe she thought she was more open than she actually is in terms of maybe what she was looking for her partner to have, I guess, in terms of openness to experiences or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I you said that she's being polite.
She was.
I don't know, but I didn't see
I didn't see it
polite.
this out. Yeah, I didn't see it. Last episode, I saw it for sure. This episode, not so much.
Mm-mm. No, there were a few times where I feel like she was being a bit harsh on him. Now, I will say his constant joking, that's lame. The jokes aren't funny. He's kind of lying as well. And she says that she's having a hard time deciphering if he's telling the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
That is what it is. But I'll say that I think if she liked him overall, like you said, she wouldn't be probably as harsh on him on those things.
I will say, the lie that I think was really maybe a big deal was him talking about the horses, because she was like, I don't know if he's serious about riding horses his whole life or not. And then he said, oh no, I have. I've been riding horses my whole life. So when they get to the horse thing and she's thinking, oh, this is something we're gonna do, and he communicates, I don't really want to do this. I don't think this fun. I can see how that would be annoying. And if he's done other things like that, I think last week there was with the whatever water activity he did, there was something similar. But I can definitely see that being annoying, because it's like, okay, you're not as adventurous as I am. Fine, I get it, but just tell me. Like, if you would have said, this is my first time, I'm kind of scared, but I'm gonna do it for you. That's one
Mm-hmm.
thing. But to be like, oh no, I'm great at it, and then here you go, scared. Everybody else is on their horse, and you still, standing behind. That would be a little bit annoying.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think she's attracted to him.
Mhm.
And I also okay, so I was saying all those things about him. I understand why she's not attracted to that piece, but I also get this sense of like she wants what she wants, and I don't know how much real wiggle room is there for her.
Hmm.
Um yeah, like even with her saying like, "Oh, well he's complaining about a lot of stuff."
Hmm.
And it's like, "Girl, you're complaining too about him complaining." Like I feel like there hasn't been much conversation around like how much he is into her and how much of like how she is kind of fits with him and his life. It's more about, well, this is what I like where I am in life, and he doesn't have those things, or he's not that way.
Maybe so. He has said some things, but they have all been positive, and so maybe
Mm,
he is content with her,
yeah.
and she's just not content with him. So yeah, I can understand the complaining thing. I can see how these things will be annoying for sure. As far as her having wiggle room or not having wiggle room, maybe, but when you're annoyed by somebody, any wiggle room that you did have is
It's
just out.
gone.
Yeah, but that's not to say that I think she's handled everything right. So I don't want it to come off that way. One thing that I do want to talk about before I go into his apology to her later on, there's this clip going around. I saw it on the Married at First Sight fan page,
Mm-hmm.
but it is of okay. I'm not gonna say what the clip is, but it suggests very clearly some type of connection between Dominique and Clint. No, not Clint. Clint, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dominique and Clint. And so I think that's very interesting because they were both on the after party. And after seeing the clip that I saw, maybe I was getting some vibes from them, because on the after party, both of them were talking about just how into adventure they are. And I know Dominique likes older men. So I wonder if she feels like Clint, because he's more willing to go through all these adventures, if she thinks he's what she's looking for, at least at the time of them taping the after party.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this is something that would last, but at least at that point. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a look standpoint and I guess lifestyle, I could see that. But
Interesting.
other than that,
Not
no.
so much.
Like maybe y'all hang out and do these boat rides together and jump off cliffs. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to a marriage than that.
Yeah. I don't think it's a
So,
lasting relationship. I think they could flirt and hang out a few times. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So that was one of the things I was going to bring up is that I feel like one, because she's not into him, he's annoying her. He's doing things that aren't really like making him look in the best light.
Mhm.
Um he was good for apologizing though. I enjoyed that
I
scene.
respected that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wrote down that I feel like Dominique is kind of hyper focused on something that I feel like is a smaller piece of marriage in general in like day-to-day life.
Hmm.
And so yeah.
I don't know. Like I I don't know. Well, you're married, but
Yeah, I mean it depends on your lifestyle, what
yeah.
you're expecting. I think in the early years where you have the time and space to travel, to,
Mhm.
you have the bandwidth to enjoy these adventurous things. But I think at the other in the other seasons of life, I just don't know how big of a deal this is now. Maybe her thought process is that the way that he's handling this stuff shows up in everyday life experiences. So maybe that's why it's a bigger deal for her. It's like, oh, well, this is how you're handling this. Then how does that translate to kind of how you handle things at home and how open you are? Um, but yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so you when I said what I said, I wasn't thinking about the adventure thing. So I do think the adventure thing is something if you like the person that you can get over because at a certain point, like if you look at this person and you want to have kids with them down the line, they can sit with the baby while you go ride horses in the water. Or, like when you're parasailing, they can watch your
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I could definitely so I agree with that. I think what I thought you were talking about was being annoying
Oh,
because
no,
like
no, no, no,
day to
no.
day, I couldn't see my life with
No,
someone.
not the annoying piece. It
Yeah.
was more so I feel like she spent like she talked about the joking and the lies a little
Mhm.
bit, but she talked more about I feel like how he's not handling the adventure, the horseback riding, the
Yeah, yeah,
sailboat thing, that she feels like he's not handling that well. And I think she's also thinking about her lifestyle back at home. She likes hunting and fishing and
yeah.
doing all these types of things. So she's like, okay, well, how does that fit in
To her.
with my life back at home? Which I agree to a certain extent
Yeah.
for this season of life that she's in.
Yeah, so I don't even think I think Dominique is thinking very this season. So I think two things. I think she is thinking very much this season like she
Mm-hmm.
wants somebody to have fun with, to enjoy things with. I don't know why her preference is an older man if that's what she's interested in, but I don't know. I can't call it, right? But I think that is just where she is at this point in her life. So probably for the next 5 years or so or probably even more, say the next 10 years or so, that might be a big deal to her. So I think that, but then also where they are. So they got married and then they came on a honeymoon where adventurous things are supposed to happen. So whatever, even if it is a small thing, it's like magnified now
Mm-hmm.
because this is all I know of you. And we're in a place where this is what, like she told her mom, I could sit on the beach in Miami, not in Jamaica, So those are the two things
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I agree. If you like the person, that's something that you might be able to overlook. And if you see your life with someone long term, then it's definitely something that you can see as a compliment to you. Like it balances you out and you can still have your fun and they be there doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I'm outside while you inside.
Yeah, exactly. Like don't think because you inside I'm gonna be because he's not trying to
Exactly.
stop her or anything. So yeah, I think I I like that he apologized to her. I think that was one of the more mature moments from him. There were a few mature moments that he had in this episode, but I appreciated this one because he really articulated what it is that he was feeling, and he said exactly what her mom had said on the phone earlier, which was, "Hey, I'm trying." I wouldn't be surprised if the mom sent him a text message and was like
Girl.
because yeah, she's all in the mix, but because he said it like verbatim, I'm like the mom is up to something. But yeah, that was just a thought that I had.
Yeah, I didn't fully appreciate her response to the apology. Uh Yeah, her
Yeah,
energy was just weird, and
I'm a
she
straight
said,
up person.
"I know BS." Like
Yeah.
her
If you're gonna
energy,
do it, just do it.
yeah, it almost felt, I don't know, like a parent to a child. I don't know. Her energy just wasn't that of like a partner in that moment.
She could have met him halfway, and
Yeah.
she didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't here for that. What did you think about his comments in the guys group session on how he think Gina's a sexy thing?
Girl, I was cracking up because he had to have been like he probably kept going because even Eris was like, okay, like dang, this is this man's wife. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I like Gina's, but Gina is sexy. Like, why would you say that? I thought that was
I
too
feel like he's just like really socially awkward. Like I
funny.
get the vibe that he don't really know what to say.
Say, I
He
don't
just
know.
he 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 says he's an introvert. I don't know what his social interactions or situations are like at
Yeah.
home. He just gives me extremely socially awkward. I don't know what to say.
Mhm. No, he knew what he knew what to say in that moment. He knew what he was
Well, more
doing.
so even just reading the room. Like even if you knew you wanted to say it, most people wouldn't have said it. Like you chuckle and you drink your drink like you thought it in your
Man,
head, but you got common sense enough not to say it.
I know that was too funny. Yeah, and
uh
Clint didn't seem to be like, okay, hold on now. So
mm.
maybe it was because it was Clint and because of Clint's vibe, he thought it was okay. I
Well,
don't
that
know.
and Clint says whatever he wants to.
Too right.
So
So there's two peas in a pod.
yeah.
But yeah,
Hmm.
that was hilarious to me, especially Eris's face. That cracked me up.
My goodness, my
Okay, is that
goodness.
it on them?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's all I had on them. Yep.
Okay, let me see. So yeah, Dominique was on the after party, so I'm trying to see if she said anything that was particularly helpful. No, just that the physical attraction was there, just not the emotional one. All right, cool. We can
Yeah.
move on to the next pair.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna do Kirsten and Shaq. Is that good?
Yeah. Let's go to these two.
I loved them dancing together. Like that whole date was such a cute idea. I would do
Mm-hmm.
that on vacation, and she really is feeling him when he dances. Apparently,
Yeah. It's almost like she forgets about all the things that she isn't really feeling about him.
yeah,
Yeah. I
which
enjoyed
isn't
that moment.
much, right? Okay. So yeah, so she loves when he dances. The thing that I have the most on them about was
Mm-hmm.
after they sat with the girls and after she sat with the girls after he sat with the boys. That's the
Yes.
most I have on them because they had this argument. And I personally feel like whatever that boys or that guys meetup did, it put a battery in Shaq because he came back on a different energy. In
Okay,
my
so before we get to that,
uh-huh.
I want to go to the girls meetup.
Okay.
Dominique clearly said that, Matt jokes too much. He doesn't know when to be serious. And then Kirsten kind of goes along with that same vibe of like, yeah, I get that from my husband too. He does, he jokes around a lot and how sometimes you have to stop men where they are, I guess, to correct them or something.
That was funny.
And
Yes.
so that was just so odd to me because that was the first time I've heard her
Yeah. Say
express that
that.
he jokes and he plays too much.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, the bald head, he talks at you, and he jokes around too much. So we're on three things in the age thing.
Okay, to be fair, she hasn't brought up the age thing since the wedding.
She hasn't, but it has been on the list. So
But you keeping track?
I am.
But they did show a clip of him being playful in a way that she wasn't here for. So it's
Okay,
probably
so
something that production just hasn't shown us, but that has been happening behind closed doors.
I think I think that happens with a lot of couples where you'll find yourself not being in like a joking mood, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't translate into you not knowing the time or place of like when to be serious, when not to be. I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm saying all that to say that whole conversation between them two about him joking around and not, I agree his energy was different. However, I felt like she was kind of lecturing him on how to be serious, when to joke. There's a time and place for everything. Okay, girl, this man is a full adult, well educated. I think he knows that there's a time or place for everything. It felt like a motherly verbal like lashing a bit. It didn't sound, yeah, it for me that whole thing didn't sound like two partners. Like I don't know. I felt a way about her trying to school him on how important it is to know the time or place to be joking or not.
Okay.
He does not strike me as a person who does not understand that.
If I could just say, um, so no, he doesn't strike me. I'm Team Shaq. Anybody who watches our reviews knows this. Um, However, it didn't strike me as a lashing. Here's what I think happened. I think she came back and she was really excited to talk about what happened with the girls and how, I guess Jasmine and Airris, and how Jasmine doesn't feel like Airris is attracted to her or whatever. And Shaquille was in a different space. As a fan of his, he was in a different space. And so he's like, well, I'm telling you, that ain't what was just said. And she's like, well, why would he say that? So they had a little back and forth about that to start. And then, she was
Oh,
saying,
which
oh,
by the way,
mhm.
Shaq is being so messy.
He is, but you could be that way. You could be that way with your spouse.
You can, but not your spouse of 2 days.
Yeah.
Not with something that heavy. Like you know she's gonna go back and tell. Cause
He does
like
not know that. I don't think she will. Kirsten is too classy to do that. I don't know. I don't think she's gonna go back and be like, "Oh, let me tell." Not immediately, at least. It
no,
might
no, no,
be.
I don't think immediately, but it's like you don't know these people. You just met a few days ago. I
I suppose.
understand like giving the general vibe of like, hey, this is kind of like generally what was said, but I just would not go back and be like, oh yeah, he's not attracted to his wife. Like that is a bombshell of information.
Okay, and maybe I'm giving them too much of like a benefit of the doubt, but I didn't think much of it. I'm like, okay, they at least have enough of a friendship where maybe that's okay. But
Yeah, that's what Justin thought
I
with
know.
Alexis.
As soon as you started talking, I was thinking about Justin and
Like,
Alexis.
because at this point, I don't think there's enough camaraderie and loyalty really built. Even they don't know if they're going to stay together.
Hmm.
So I think for us in the real world, we're like, oh, of course you should be able to go tell your spouse X, right?
Hmm.
But no,
Interesting.
not in a experiment like this. I could see him being like, oh, I feel like Eris and Jasmine, like what they have going on is rocky right now. I could see him keeping it very general, but to go back and say to her, oh, he ain't attracted to her.
She said 3 times. No, I'm telling you, no, he's
That's what
not.
was said.
Right.
Even
That's
the
what
way he
she had
said
said.
it, I don't know if he had an extra margarita or
I'm
what.
telling you, he had energy, Vyosha. Like after that meetup, he was on one a little bit. And so they had a back and forth about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, yeah, like she said Dominique was saying her husband jokes a lot. And I was saying, I get that feeling too with my husband. And as she was talking, he did cut her off a few times during this. Now I'm Team Shaq, so I understand him being fed up. And if what he said last week on the after party is right, that behind the scenes she's one way, but in front of the camera it might be different. I can definitely understand, but just based on what we saw on the camera, he was cutting her off. And when he was like, "So what do you like? Tell me, what do you like?" I'm like, I want to know too. What?
What
what
do
do
you
you
like?
like? Like,
Yeah,
so I
because
didn't
we
think that
have
was
a few
wrong.
things we know that you don't like.
Yes.
And
Tell
she
me.
keeps bringing up the bald head thing, which I really wish she would kind of lay that to rest. Because I feel like if the tables were turned and it was a feature about her, like, oh, I like women with short hair, long hair, whatever that looks like, I
Yeah.
don't think she would be as receptive of him continuing to bring it up. And definitely not in front of other people. Now, I want to go back just a little bit. Um, when they first started talking, she was like, "Oh, this is exactly what I needed." And he was like, in terms of like the girls' meetup, he was just
Mm-hmm.
like, "And why is that?"
Mm-hmm.
I think from that moment, like he was already on one, but I think that that was what kind of like got his wheels turning and not in the right way. Cause it's like, okay, why is exactly what you needed to be away from me all day? And
And
even though she maybe didn't mean it fully that way,
at
maybe it was,
all,
oh, I just
yeah.
needed girls' time. But I just saw, I saw the way his brain interpreted it in
You
that
saw
moment, the way he was turned to the side, like, and why is that? And
it.
from is why is that? He was done with her. He was done.
Oh man. Yeah. So
And then
I
he wanted to know what do you like?
yeah.
And she still never said.
Well, from what they showed us, she never said.
Mm.
But I will say, I think she kept her composure because like the way he was cutting her off, I probably would have gotten a little bit irritated. Like, hey, if you don't let me talk, we're gonna have some problems. So I think she kept her composure and was able to articulate what it is that's the problem. But to something that you said earlier, like this man knows when it's the time to joke and when not to joke. I'm 1,000% sure he does, but he doesn't know that with her. Like, at a certain point, or I'll I'll use my family as an example. Like when I'm sleepy, as bubbly as I am, like don't mess with me. I remember one time we were at one of my uncle's events and I hadn't eaten all day because I was running around. And my cousins were around taking pictures. And I told them, okay, like I'll take pictures after I eat. Why, as I'm dipping my celery into my ranch dressing, does my cousin come next to me and the other one gets the camera and they think it's picture taking time? Like, I don't know. You just don't know the people. You don't know the person. They've only been around each other 2 days. So he might not know when to joke around her. And it is up to her to say, hey, for me, that's not the time and the place.
Right. So you have that conversation, I would think,
Mhm.
like as you're together and learning each other, like say you're not in the mood, but I don't know. I would expect for you to be like, hey Miosha, when I'm like in the middle of studying or whatever, like that's not the time for XYZ. Like you're kind of course correcting in the moment or when situations happen and not preemptively lecturing people about this is how you handle me. So for example, what she referenced as far as like he was joking about like her in the airport with all these bags and stuff. Like for me, maybe she wasn't in the mood in that moment. And then maybe that was the time she could have been like, hey, I'm not in the mood for like joking. But she didn't reference from what we saw anything else where it was a moment where it was supposed to be serious or she didn't like the jokes or whatever. I don't know. I'm just a fan of as things happen, you course correct or you give feedback and not preemptively lecturing people about how they should be conducting themselves where it's like okay he's an adult, he knows that, like give yourself room for things to happen, could like at least consistently before you start complaining about it.
I don't know. I
Like
don't know.
to me
I
like
don't
say
know.
there was a time that happened
Yeah.
where he was just doing the most, like hey, okay, this isn't the time. I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood. But me personally, I would not pull a person aside to be like, oh, there's a time and a place. Because the way it came across, even though his energy was hype, was
Mm.
like he said, like, I don't know how to be with you or how to act. It's because you haven't had time, really. And so I understood what she's being proactive, but you haven't let any time or like situations happen to where now he'll feel like, oh, I'm on eggshells because like he's like, I don't know how to be. Is it okay to joke? Isn't it? Well, these are the things that you learn by being with a person.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe because there's so much that we don't see, there could have been other things.
Well,
But
let
even
us
if
know,
there weren't,
Kirsten.
right? But even if there weren't, and that was a thing that did bother her, and someone else said, "Oh, her husband jokes too much," and then that brought it back to her mind. I don't think it was. I don't think it was the worst time to bring it up. You might not
Yeah.
want to in that exact moment with someone who you've only known for 2 days, but I guess some of the things that she was saying were hinting towards like, hey, you think this is funny, but I don't think this is funny to be, joking about taking videos of me struggling with my bags instead of helping me with my bags. But I don't know. I don't think it was the worst time. And I didn't see it as a lashing, but
I don't think she's into him, and it's just one more thing.
interesting.
It's
Okay.
it's like, okay, like you said, when people have certain things about, like, if she was really into this man, she would be like,
Okay. I don't think so.
I think
But
the attraction is there. I think if the vibe is right, I think you're a
okay.
lot less critical. Like we said last season with Alexis, that because that attraction wasn't there, it's
Mhm.
all the things. And I hope that that's not the direction that they're going at this one, because I feel like it's still early. But I don't know. Even in the group scene where she brought up the bald head thing again, I just really was not here for that.
And I know, and we wouldn't be because we've heard it a million times, but if this was their first time meeting up with everybody. So if she brings it up for me, and I know people are gonna be like, oh, why are you defending her? I I want them to work, okay? And as much as I said in my predictions, everybody's gonna say no to each other. Um, I I think there is like a possibility here with
Hmm.
them, but yeah, I think if that was their first meeting, I will excuse it, and if she brings it up again, then it's definitely overkill. I
Yeah.
don't know that she likes him, but everything that she's doing in my opinion, suggests that she wants this marriage to work. In
From
my
what we see,
From what we see
if
that
Shaq is
production
correct,
is showing us. Yeah.
yeah. If
So
Shaq is right, then
yeah, even at the end of this conversation where she was like, they were able to come together at the end, and
mhm,
figure something out. Where she's like, I'm not telling you to change yourself, like be who you are, but in certain moments it is a bit much for me. And she said, I like when she was like, you remember the other day I said, are you open to criticism? Now it's feel like you're not ready for criticism, or you're not open for to criticism. And she said there might be things that you don't like about me. I'm really curious to see when those things come up how she'll respond. But all in all, I feel like it was a good first argument or disagreement.
another thing that she brought up was
Mhm.
that she feels like he's giving a speech, is giving MLK vibes.
Mhm.
But he said that she doesn't open up and
She's
she's
not
not vulnerable. So
done.
I think he's filling a lot of the space in
Mm.
driving the conversation, talking about himself. He even said, like, I don't want to talk about myself so much. Like, I want to hear about
Mhm.
you. And so I do see where I feel like she's not opening up, because I feel like I still really don't know her, what
Mhm.
she likes other or doesn't like, other than the bald head. Like, we're just not hearing. So I think that's also what's contributing to me not having much hope, is because I feel like she's calling out these things she doesn't like.
Mhm.
I haven't heard much about what she does like, or just about her in general.
Mhm.
She seems a bit like closed off.
Yeah. And I think with Kirsten, we wouldn't see much as viewers anyway.
Mm-mm.
So like if she was mad at the whole education, like they, when they had to go to his conference, if she was mad at that, she wouldn't have shown it to the cameras. But yeah, I
Yeah.
I I like Kirsten. I think she is very closed off.
Mm.
She admitted to being that way, especially since the pandemic. But I like her so far, and I want to root for her.
I am not gonna say either way.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I'm not gonna say because I don't even know that if it's I like her or not. I think
Okay.
it's more of me just like responding to what I'm seeing on camera.
Yeah.
And
I'll say I
I
want
will
to give
say that
her a
I could
chance.
appreciate, like, if the attraction isn't there or certain things, I feel like she is handling him with respect
Hmm.
up until this point from what we've seen. Now, if she's been acting and giving mixed signals,
Hmm.
I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
But as the season goes on, I think we'll hear more about if that's continuing. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, we talked way more about them
yeah.
than I ever expected, but please let us
Okay.
know in the comments. I know people are going to be like, "No, Samaria, she needs to."
You might have some people on your team, they might think I'm being too harsh.
No, you're not being too harsh. I think I am being a little bit more optimistic with her because I feel like I get some of it, but
Mm,
that's just me.
okay.
Okay. Do we want to do Eris and Jasmine?
Yeah, let's get these 2 going. I mean,
Wait, hold on. Because you don't have to ask me the question that you've been asking me every week about, do you think he's into her? Because
now we know.
we know. See, like
You called it. You smart. You was right.
yeah, I'm not surprised. And then he says something about like his type is more like I guess body. He likes Serena Williams, and there was somebody else with a big one, Meg Thee
Meg the
Stallion.
Stallion. Like, both beautiful women, both amazing bodies, but not even I don't even think well, one is like a top tier athlete.
Yeah,
Another is an entertainer. So it's like you're naming people.
who you
I don't
wouldn't
know.
see every day.
No.
But
Like, of course we have ideas about celebrities like we admire or like, oh, I like that. But okay.
so he interestingly, because this is actually before he said all that, I wrote down he's hot and cold, inconsistent. I can't call it. That's what my notes say. But yeah, he was just hot and cold. And like, I can understand him because they started with the massages, I think. And I
Which
can
I wanted Jasmine to sit down.
and get her full massage.
Yeah, no massaging him. He needs to be massaging you.
Right. And there's a professional there, like, girl, stand up. Like, don't don't do that. But I can understand him not wanting to like touch, but considering last week and just previous conversations that we've been privy to, it just seemed off to me. And for me, it seemed like, oh, this is just someone else who he can see himself having sex with. Like for him, there's not a commitment there. I don't know what to say. Like
Mm-mm.
she's just another person to him, or the way that he was acting made me feel that way. Like you're not someone who I would settle down with for the rest of my life, but I wouldn't mind if and I think because of this experience, he hasn't gone that far, but things that he said suggest what I just said. But that's my thought.
So maybe I'm reaching here and you tell me,
Okay.
but I think all the sex talk leading up until this episode
Hmm.
is recent is I think the night before where they're sitting down at dinner and she's just
Yes.
like, whoa, like there are other things you can ask me about, or hey, I'm a bit more private, or when it comes to those types of things. I think that he saw her, knew like, okay, she's not immediately my type.
Hmm.
But because he admitted himself, like, hey, I'm a pretty sexual person or whatever, I think he was very much open to the idea of being intimate with her quickly.
Mm.
But when he saw how she was going to be moving slower, and that, like, oh, this is going to require a lot more energy and effort and work,
Yeah.
I think he pulled all the way back.
Mm.
I think he got whiff of that and was like, wait, okay, this is going to require more work. do I really want to be putting in all the work if I don't really can't see myself being with her for forever or past the 8 weeks? Like, do I want to be on this hamster wheel to try to convince her or open her up to these types of things,
Yeah.
knowing that I really wasn't attracted to her like that in the
In the
first
first
place?
place.
So now I'm gonna pull all the way back.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's
that's
a
the vibe
possibility.
that I got. That's how it seemed to like switch
Yeah.
overnight. And I think for her, she's like so confused, like, wait, what happened? We were going in that direction. I think
Yeah,
she
for
was
sure.
open to being intimate with him, just maybe not spilling all her tea on national television.
Mhm.
So I didn't get the vibe that she didn't want to be. One of the things that I wrote down that I am annoyed by is that he seems to really like the fact that she's so into him much more.
But is she so into
No, well,
him?
according to him,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the case. I mean, she's
Okay.
complimented him. She said that she
Yeah.
looks nice or
She's
whatever.
trying because she signed up to do that.
But he's also said that she's beautiful and whatever. So it seems reciprocal when they're together. But then when
Mhm.
he's with the guys, it's like, oh, she thinks I'm a 12. And but she's really a what? What did he say? 4.5, 4 to
No, hold on.
5
I
or
think I
something
wrote this
crazy.
down.
Yeah.
Dang, I didn't write it down, but I tweeted about it.
Yeah, I think he said that she's
Like a
between a
4 or
4 and a
5.
5. And
Mhm.
I also wrote down that I feel like he has this macho bravado energy. I feel like with the guys where it's a lot about sex and oh, she's so into me. And
Mm.
then you have the nerve to rate this woman a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
4 to 5, I'm sorry, out of 10. What?
He has an elevated, or that comment made me think he has an elevated sense of self, because to anybody outside looking in, I think we can see that Jasmine wants this to work because that's what she signed up for. And so it's
Mhm.
not so much that she thinks the world of him. She said he looked good with his shirt off. She has complimented him. That's fine. But to say, oh, she thinks I'm like a 12, I'm like, okay, pipe down. Like, relax.
That and because of all the sex talk I feel with the guys, when they're all together as a group,
Mhm.
um, Clint has the nerve to say something about her back being blown out, which was just so rude and disrespectful. And this is the second time I feel like sex has been referenced
Mhm.
in like front of the group in regards to them too. I think it was right before they were leaving for the honeymoon. They I
Yes.
think we're standing in the lobby and she was just like taken back, like, what?
Yeah.
Like what is going on? And then this situation happens. And so I hope that she's paying attention to just like the differences in like how the rest of the group, Clint mainly and the guys, like this perception they may have. And
Of
hopefully it's
her.
cluing her in about like what's being said.
Yeah. I think she's perceptive enough. Like, she already knows something is off, you
Yeah.
know, but she might not know what exactly it is. And so he admitted to feeling more of a friend vibe. And I think for me, Eris doesn't really, I guess because he doesn't know how to do romance with companionship. Like, it doesn't seem like he's had any relationships where you had to be romantic with the person, but you also have this kind of like rapport with them, like you guys are friends. So
Hmm.
I feel like what he's talking about, most people would want in a relationship, like the friendship, but he's not seeing the beauty of that. Um, I do have an unpopular opinion though.
Okay.
Okay.
What you got to say?
Okay, so I kind of get it. I think there are people, when he says, I think she's a beautiful person, but I'm not attracted to her. I can kind of see how that is possible. Where there's people like celebrities, right? Like, I'm going to say Michael Ealy. Obviously a stunning man, but if I got matched with him on Married at First Sight, I would probably be like, "Oh, he's stunning." I don't know that that's my vibe. So I get that portion of it. So I can't fault, like, sometimes you're just not attracted to people. But him leading her on is what I can't get with. And it seems like next week he does tell her about the whole friend vibe thing. So I will appreciate that, that he's upfront with it so that she knows. If he had been like just dragging her along all season, then I would not have been here for it.
Yeah, so we get the preview of him telling her that he gets more friend vibes, but up until now, he has been leading her on, and it seems like he would have been perfectly fine being intimate with her, knowing he wasn't attracted to her. If she said yes, problem. But then also, um, his reasoning in this episode for pumping the brakes wasn't because of attraction. He
Mm.
said, like, oh, I've always done that in the past and I want to do things differently. BS.
Yeah.
So two problems, huge. And yeah, you eventually get to the why, the real why. But up
Hmm.
until this point, you're misleading her and you're lying.
It's because he saw how she reacted to him never being in love, and he saw how her emotions are really in this. Like, I think he was taken aback by the fact that she had such a big response to that. And I think
Yeah.
that was like it helped with the transition from, oh, let's talk about sex all the time, to, oh wow,
Mm-hmm.
she's really like getting her feelings involved in this.
As you should with a process and someone you're already married to.
Okay, I'm
Like,
saying.
what did he think this is? And I don't know. I wrote that I feel like Airris is a person I don't know that really even should be in this type of process
Yeah.
because um I think it's very apparent because they paired him with Jasmine, but I don't know.
Hmm.
I just am not getting the overall vibe. Like, he may want to be married, but I don't really know that he's really willing to do the deep, real work.
Interesting. And he keeps saying, like, I think it's just time. It's not time. And Jasmine kind of is onto that a bit, because she said, I don't know if I should hold back now that he's expressed where he is. And I'm like, yes, Jasmine, hold back, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Hold back. Because he told her everything that she needed to know when they had their little sit down, by him saying, like, oh, it's just time. And I think she gets it. She's 32, I think. So I think she's been around long enough that she knows what the signs are, and she should just go with that and trust her gut. Like, next week she's like, I didn't sign up to be anybody's friend, so, and she did.
Yeah. And then he really got under my skin when he said he thinks that it's a good challenge for someone for you to try to get someone to be like the first love or something. I was like, but that's not a challenge that she should
We
want
are
to
not about to
have.
be running on hamster wheels. Are hamsters the
Mm-mm.
ones who run on wheels?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not about to do that in 20 in the year of our Lord 2023. We're not doing that.
And then he said he thinks that it's just awkward. And this is where I'm like, I feel like when you sign up for a process like that, like, you're already married. So what do you mean you think that this is awkward? Like, these are real conversations that need to be had. You
Yep.
have to be digging deep. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, because he's never been in love that he shouldn't be on this show. It's just some of the other stuff that he's saying. I'm like,
Also, did he tell the experts that's the body type he wanted? Because if you came in there not being specific, what, like, you have to take what it is that you're giving. You got a beautiful woman, so whether she has a Meg Thee Stallion or Serena Williams booty or not, like, she's
and I don't know. Mm.
you're not here for Eris.
That, and it's for me, I don't know. It's just I would have expected more. Like, he's giving a young 39, as we would say.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I feel like when it comes to body types, I agree we have the attraction or not. But
Mhm.
I think hopefully as you age, you realize like people's bodies drastically change
Yeah.
throughout different seasons. You have kids, you have illnesses, you lose weight, gain, like, women's bodies are always changing. So
And as slim as she is, she probably could be, like, at some point have that
she
body.
has the shape.
Yeah, she has the shape already. It's just a matter of some weight gain, which life will bring
Life
about.
will typically do
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
And
So,
even if it didn't, it's like, okay, well, if she's blessed to have like a high metabolism and she works out and whatever, like, okay, men get to their 50s and they wish, oh, I wish my wife was slim and trim or whatever, so it's just like, I don't know. It just, uh, at 40, dude,
Yeah, it's interesting. I am looking forward to seeing how he handles it going forward, because if he knows, it's like Nicole's family told Chris, or Chris's family told Nicole, if at
mhm,
any point you realize you're not in this, just please be straight up
mhm.
and let him know. And I think Eris needs to. So we'll
Yeah, the one thing I will say is, going forward, I
see.
just really wish that Jasmine will pull back that cater to you energy, because I feel
Res-
like it's
Reserve that for the man who deserves it, because someone does, not
it's
him.
it's feeling very one-sided. And I also wouldn't bring up again about him not being in love and
Mhm.
like we've talked about it. We understand he hasn't been in love before,
Yeah.
but like let that be
But you know
where
how
it
Married
is.
at First Sight is. They're going to make them do a whole couples activity around that. So this is not the last that we've heard of this. I can guarantee it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
one thing that he said, because he was talking about the other couples, and I don't want to laugh when Aaron says funny stuff or does funny stuff, but I can't help it. So he said, Gina and Clint, he's like, they low key called each other ugly in a very nice way. And I thought that was pretty funny. But he said that he feels like Nicole doesn't like Chris. And I'm like, boy, worry about yourself. Like, focus on your relationship and you not liking Jasmine.
And this is more the reason why they shouldn't let the couples come together like that. Because I think in the confessional cam, Dr. Peppers, in the words of Elijah Wan,
Elijah Wan.
said like, "Oh, it's a good time to come together to compare notes and encourage each other." No, we saw the way Shaq came back with a whole different energy, and
Okay.
you heard the advice that Clint was giving. So no, bad idea.
Clint said she will crush you. Hold on. I had written down some things that he said, because I'm like, bruh, are you kidding me right now? He said, yeah, she will crush you. Sorry. That's all I wrote down. I thought I wrote more. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Speaking of Clint, let's get to him and Gina.
he said,
Um,
"I'm coming for blood, baby."
okay. I watched the after party, so I'll let you know after we discuss what he said. But I know Twitter was kind of split on this.
Mm.
Was he wrong, or did Gina get what she dished out?
Mm.
What you think?
Um, so y'all gonna drag me.
Okay.
Um, but oh,
I'm gonna need you to say
I know.
it.
Cause okay.
You want me to give my opinion first?
Yeah, because it
Okay.
won't sway mine. I
It
just have
won't.
to get my thoughts together. Okay.
Okay. So I think a few things. One, I think a part of it was intentional, like him saying it in front of everybody at that time, I think was very intentional. Like he meant to throw shade at her body.
Oh, more than throw shade, he
A
meant to
whole
humble
palm tree.
her.
Yes.
Humble,
Yes,
not shade,
he
humble.
wanted to humble her. Because yeah, he wanted to humble her. But I also think he specifically chose the weight thing because he knew it would be offensive. And the reason why I think he did that was because to him, the term ginger is offensive. So, whereas, like,
Mm,
not everybody thinks the word ginger is offensive. Like, a bunch of us were asking on Twitter because, it's something that everybody has heard before and didn't know it was offensive. But I think the same way that a woman or anybody might take offense to weight comments is how he takes the ginger comment. So he wanted her to hurt the way that he was hurt. And so, like, for me, if it were a thing that at the same time that she said it to him, like, because we definitely critiqued her for going in on him last week.
hmm
But if in that same conversation he would have said something like, yeah, usually I date more athletic people. If he would have said it in that same conversation, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal. It still would have been a little bit vindictive, but to say it in front of everybody, that was embarrassing. And he meant to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he meant it. Yeah. Definitely was on purpose. He wanted to humble her. I think because a few times she's referred to the lack of attraction, him not being her type, the redhead, whatever. She did go in on him.
She did.
We're not going to forget that. So it was definitely a retaliation
Yeah.
to bring her a bit down, and I think it worked. I'll say that as far as the whole ginger thing being offensive, I don't know that it's offensive. Okay, if someone says it is, it is.
I think it's
That's
offensive
fine.
to him, but that's
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll say though, something that I was thinking about is like as a kid, I don't know if it was just my experience, but I do remember like the redhead people being heavily picked on. Like they used to call them fiery crotch, fiery red crotches. Yeah, it's a thing. It is a thing. So with that, I understood why one, he's like, okay, I understand your lack of attraction, but for you to harp on the fact of like, it's my hair color, having that feature is unique. It's not very common. It's not something you can change. And so I think that kind of added to the fuel of it in that like I don't know his past or his history, but if he's been a redhead his whole life, I'd venture to say that he's probably been picked on more than once for it. And so, but she wouldn't maybe know that because maybe that's not her lived experience. She does hair, you know.
Okay. Which that comment, Gina girl, just because you the term ginger might not be offensive, but you saying I specialize in that, it does not invalidate his hurt.
It's
What
like
I
white
wish,
people who are like, I'm not racist. I have black friends.
right? And it's like, no, you don't. That's not how this works. But what I wish would have happened, because he clearly was hurt by it, I do wish he would have had a conversation with her and said, hey, this hurt me. But I think maybe age and ego kept him from doing that, because she mentioned that they're having trouble with physical attraction after Kirsten said something. So she didn't bring it up, but she never said, I don't think so. I don't think she said anything about like, oh, because he's a ginger. She said, oh yeah, we've been having difficulty in, you know, the physical department, but I've been with people who I've, you know, maybe initially didn't find attractive, but later on grew an attraction to them. And that was all she said. So she kept it cute in the group setting.
So I'll say, I think another reason why he responded the way that he did is because I think for you to express within the group that there's an issue with attraction, I think he took an issue with that.
Mm.
And he's not in a space where he's able to communicate that in the moment. And so I don't think it was that she had to say a specific thing. I
Okay.
think it was the fact, like how we said in an episode or two ago, that like he was shocked that she wasn't attracted. Like he's not used to being in a position where a person keeps bringing up a lack of attraction. So for her to do it in the group setting, I think that that triggered him in addition to what she had already said. I do think that they were both wrong. I'll say that I think Gina's the same way that she had this like lack of accountability in the moment for what she had said. Um, I think really both of them are wrong.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have harped on so much about it being this physical trait specifically. Really, Gina, you shouldn't have even brought up the lack of physical attraction in the group setting. I don't think that that's necessary. I think you can bring up other things, but
Interesting.
I'm putting myself in their shoes. If I'm paired with someone and we're all talking, if there is an issue with attraction,
Yeah.
give us time to potentially work through that
Mhm.
before you air it to the group. It's not like you saying like, "Oh, I have maybe an issue, like, oh, you have a lot of dogs." Like, "Well, we don't know how that's going to work." That's different than you basically saying like, oh, I'm not really into this person, or there are physical things that I don't like. Even the way Kristen referenced his bald head
Kirsten.
again, Kirsten.
Yeah.
I just feel like when it comes to the lack of attraction, physical traits, especially when it's stuff that people can't change,
Right. Keep it cute.
why even say it?
I think she felt comfortable saying it when Kirsten shared hers and it went over fine. But that, again, you have to know the person you're with. And so
Yeah.
I think
Also, I want to add real quick that I think Clint was also over her because she won't stop talking about this salon.
that was actually the next thing I was going to.
Yeah,
Like, girl,
he was already, I think he's already kind of, his patience is waning with her because he's like, what else is there to this woman? So all you want to talk about is work. You act like you're not gonna have time for
think I'm
me.
ugly.
Yeah, you think I'm ugly or you're not attracted. I can't change my red hair. And you want to bring it up in front of people. So I'm gonna humble you.
I think they're both a bit self-absorbed. Like I think
Yes.
Gina, maybe she's in a place where she's finally made it, and so her accomplishments are her personality.
Girl, we don't care about that salon no more.
And we don't like we get it. You do hair, you specialize in red hair, apparently. Like I think it's wonderful that she has her business. You are
Mhm.
not on get a business or build a business at first sight. Like honestly, like, and I think sometimes in the dating pool, I've heard people say this. I don't
Mm.
know because I don't not in the dating pool, but I've heard people say like when they meet someone and you know the person is just talking about their job and it's like
Mhm.
that doesn't really do much for me because on the day to day, like if you're in a household with a lawyer who's your partner, you're not looking for them to argue cases for you in the household. You're looking for someone to share a life with you. Just say, hey, I like you. I did this for you. You know, I got this for you, or whatever your love language is. So you're not marrying a lawyer. You're marrying another person who you're trying to build a life with. Sure, that person's occupation is a lawyer, but you know, at the end of the day,
I think a lot of people's self-worth and
it's
confidence
attached.
is highly tied to what they do for a living, their educational level. So for me, maybe not even in the dating sense, but even in making friends, I try to make it a point not to rush to ask people, what do you do for a living? And da 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 da. Like, I don't know. I try to get to know them in general as a person. And if it comes up, great. And like, we'll get to that. But I think a significant portion of her is this business. And when she was like, oh, well, I work these hours and I don't really have time and I don't take vacations. And I think his response was, well, he's like, okay, well, I want to get you to have more fun and have more balance in your life. He said, look, I work 8 to 5. That's all they getting. The rest of my time, I'm out on my boat, yacht, whatever. And so, yeah, he was already done with her, tired of it. And when she walked off, and he said, what an unfortunate chain of events. I had to rewind it a few times. That was just so funny to me. Like, they
It
both were
was
wrong, but
okay. I do want to talk about that though, like how it ended
hmm.
because oh now my hair's sticking out. Okay. But I want to talk about how it ended because she was like, well, I think it's best that for the rest of the honeymoon, which I don't know how many more days they have, but I think
Hmm.
it's best for the rest of the honeymoon that we spend time apart. In my opinion, I don't think it should have been a rest of the honeymoon thing. Like, hey, I just need a few minutes. Let me go and chill by myself, and then we can maybe try again or whatever. So I thought she was wrong with that. And then you could tell he wanted to one up her because she walked off. So that's when he started yelling at her, like, yeah, you should be done. Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm like, bruh, just leave it alone.
I mean, he did say she was looking for her out.
I don't think that. I do think he escalated a little bit. Like, oh, she wasn't here for, I can understand how he would see that she was doing promo for the businesses. That's all she talks about. But I don't necessarily, I think he jumped to a conclusion a little too fast.
I think he jumped to it partly because she said, I'm done with you for the rest of the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Now, maybe she was just being emotional, whatever, but he don't know her enough.
Yeah.
to know like if she's done. Hopefully, I mean, we know she's probably not, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was just so funny. What an unfortunate chain of
Turn of events. Yeah. On the after party, he said that that was something they had both talked about in private. And so that's why he felt comfortable saying the weight thing out loud. He said that she had said those things to him in private and he had said that to her in private. And I was thinking, he looked really shocked the time that she brought it up. So maybe after she brought it up, then they started talking about things. But then she also seemed shocked when he brought it up. So I don't know, something's not right with that timeline. But that's what
what
he said on the after party.
what do you think about the rest of the women kind of being offended by him talking about the body type that he's
So,
used to?
so Dominique spoke on this on the after party, and she said one of her biggest fears was because she's, thick. One of her biggest fears was walking down the aisle and the person who was at the end of the aisle not wanting her because of her weight. And so she was saying,
Mm.
like, for Gina, the reason why they all responded like that is because they really like felt, like it was something that could have happened to any of them. And so they really felt some type of way. What's interesting about what Dominique said is she kind of threw in, yeah, at that time, that's how I felt. But now knowing Clint, it's not this way. So I'm like, are y'all dating at the time of the after
Mm.
party being filmed? But yeah, I can understand how it would hit their ears a little bit
Mm.
differently. I can. Even if they're not attracted to him, even if he's not the type of person, I think as a woman, you just know like certain insensitive things that people can say to other women. And so whenever they say it, it's like, oof, why would you say that? Like, weight, not being married at a certain, like certain things that you as a woman know when you talk to your girlfriends that there are concerns there. I can
Mhm.
understand why they would hear it the way they heard it.
Yeah. I think also Clint, I think, is
Wow.
responding to being her not being attracted to him. I think the roles are kind of flipped. I think there's this expectation that like, oh, that he maybe should be taking it kind of how Shaq is taking it. Like, oh, that's fine. You don't think I'm
Yeah.
cute. You don't like my bald head. That's fine. I'm still fine.
Yeah.
But he's taking it the way he's taking it. And I do think that there is a little bit of a double standard around when women talk about what they're not attracted to in their spouse versus like when a man is calling out about your body, your hair, whatever.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Absolutely. Because you know why? The
Mm.
equivalent of talking about a woman's weight is talking about how broke a man is. Like, because of how society tries to, groom us, if you say if you say they groom women to be physically appealing. That's like
Hmm.
our thing. Whereas a man, he might not be physically appealing, but if he got money, that's what his appeal is. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, we can't expect him to act the way Shaq acts, because if he was teased growing up, if that's an insecurity for
Hmm.
him, and like, I I don't know how often this happens with like redhead women, because I think I've heard some people saying like that's like an attractive thing, like that draws people.
Hmm.
But if you're a redhead and you're a man, the experiences could be vastly different. I'm not sure. But yeah. So I can understand it.
Yeah.
All
But yeah,
right, we've
that's
been
all we
talking for
have.
a
I
minute.
know. We went off this episode.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end, give this a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And tomorrow we are dropping a brand new podcast episode. It's actually about our guest who missed her best friend's wedding. So it's a very interesting episode. So please check it out, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.